Hi, I'm Vinay Raghu, and in this screencast, I wanted to talk to you about my editor of choice, Sublime Text. I think it's got a bunch of features that make me extremely productive and helps me get rid of mundane, repetitive tasks in an easier fashion. I'd highly recommend that you make a choice yourself, try to look at the different options that we have in the market, and see what works best for you. I, for example, tried Emacs and Vim. Both of them were extremely high on the learning curve aspect. I didn't feel like I could spend that much amount of time trying to learn how to work in an editor. So I chose not to go with those. With Sublime Text, it's kind of easy to get started, but there's like a ton of features that you need to understand, and that's the whole focus of this screencast. There's also a whole bunch of other editors like Notepad++, Edit Plus, there's Atom Editor, there's Adobe Brackets. You might want to have a look at all the available options and see which ones work best for you. To be really honest with you, the first reason why I chose Sublime Text was because of the color schemes. I'd never seen code look so beautiful in an editor before, and obviously it's not exclusive to Sublime, but that's where I started falling in love with this editor. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about this amazing feature of multiple cursors that Sublime has, but I kind of felt that this has been oversold. It's not the only thing that Sublime is all about. Let's talk about the multiple cursors option. I feel like this has been oversold as one of the best features, which it is, but it's not what Sublime is all about. Let's show you around with the multiple cursors. Every time you hold the command and you make a click, it places another cursor on that particular line. This is extremely useful when you want to play with a bunch of lines that are right next to each other. For example, let's say I wanted to comment all of these lines. I'd just put a cursor in front of it and add the comment. Or you can just select the whole thing and get rid of it. Let's look at an example of where that might be useful. In this file on my screen, I want to get rid of all the lines with the comments. I could just keep doing command click on each line to place a cursor and then highlight each of it. Now, you might actually run into a few problems in doing this. You could just make a mistake over here, which is kind of annoying if you have like 20 lines and then you make a mistake on one line and it's not salvageable. That's kind of wasted time. So in this case, I've gotten rid of the slash everywhere except for this one line. Well, that's not a big deal now, but you can definitely extrapolate that and see how that could be a problem. Instead, what I do is I try to combine the find and replace along with the multiple cursors option to get the most out of Sublime Text. Let's say, for example, you don't have those comments beautifully lined up like in my previous example, where you have comments interspersed between your actual code. What do? You could possibly go and make a command click on each line, but that could start getting painful and annoying. I do a command F, which is a search. As soon as I search for the double slashes, it starts showing me all relevant matches. If I just press Option and return, it highlights those matched results for me. Now, Sublime Text has itself placed those multiple cursors on the relevant lines instead of me manually going and doing it. So you could also combine this with regular expressions, which makes it amazingly powerful. Now again, I can get rid of these comments by simply deleting them. Okay, now that we've gotten done with these sections, let's talk about Command P. Command P is your friend if you're working on a project. For example, let me open up my sidebar here. And if you're working on a project and you have a bunch of files, you could just do a command P and say, okay, take me to application.js. And the best part about this is you don't have to type the entire thing fully. It does the fuzzy search for you. So if I wanted to go to application.scss, for example, I can just do APLN or 2 p.m. during the day when all the coffee I drank is out of my system and I'm not feeling at the top of my game. I don't think of application.css as an entire word. I think of it in simple syllables, right? APLN, SES. And I love it that Sublime does a fuzzy search and brings me the right result bang on top. And by pressing enter, you can open this file. I feel like this is one of the fuzzy search is one of the best features of Sublime Text. In order to open the sidebar, I used a combination of keys to do that, the command K and command B. So you basically hold the command key and press K and B successively to open and close the sidebar. Now this is again useful if you want to convert a specific selection to uppercase. You just do command K followed by U. And if you want to change the same thing to lowercase, you just say Command K and followed by L. I'm sure you can see how useful this can be. Multiple panes is another feature that I really like. For example, you could be working on a set of files, say HTML, CSS, and JavaScript together, and it helps. And we all work in such huge monitors these days that it helps to sort of use the space available on the screen to actually load not one, not two, but three files. By doing Command Option 3, I'm asking Sublime Text to show me three files at the same time. And then I can move each of the file into this newly created pane. So now I can look at three different files at the same time. And as you can see in this example, they all fit perfectly well and do not require extra screen space except for lines that are extraordinarily long like this one. Command Option 1 gets me back to the single pane window. As you know, the Command P allows you to sort of traverse through the different files in the project. This can quickly get annoying because let's say I want to go into the SCSS file. But then sometimes SAS produces a cache that sort of is residing within the folder where the project is, and then I get this cached files. So in order to avoid this, you can tell Sublime to ignore certain files, file patterns, or certain folders entirely, from preventing Sublime from showing you those in the quick search drop down. In order to achieve this, go to Project option and say Save Project As. This allows you to define a file called Sublime project, which basically holds all the settings for a particular project. So if you're working with multiple projects and each of them have different settings for folders or files that you want to exclude from the search, or if they have different settings in terms of line spacing, etc., you can definitely use a separate configuration file for each project. Now let's just give this some random name and save it. So the next thing you want to do is say edit project. Now you can see that I already have folder exclude pattern. So any folder that starts with .git gets automatically excluded. Now let's go and add the annoying SCSS file that I don't want to see. This Sublime project file follows a JSON format, so you can just append items to it and say, I don't want to see this specific file. Or you can also say, I don't want any file that ends with SCSSC. This way you can exclude all of the SAS cache files from showing up on your search results. Now once you hit save and then you go back and say SCSS, you don't see the SAS cache file being listed anymore. You can directly go into the file that you wanted. With Sublime, the two commands that you really need to know is Command P and Command Shift P. Command Shift P allows you to look at a bunch of other options that you can do that are not project specific. They're more like file specific or specific to a setting. For whatever reason, I've copy pasted this CSS into the editor. Now technically there's a beautiful color scheme that I want applied. So I can just say, hey, set syntax to CSS. And as you can see, I don't have to type the entire thing. I can just type part of the command and have Sublime understand what I'm really trying to tell. So once I do that, look at how beautiful this screen is now with all the colors. Next thing that I wanted to cover with respect to Sublime Text is what you can do with line operations. Some of these have really saved me a ton of time and given me a lot of productivity on a day-to-day basis when I'm trying to do mundane text editing tasks. Let's say I wanted to create a duplicate of this line. I want the exact same line. What I usually do in other editors is make a copy and a paste. And you think that's not so much work, but if you had to repeatedly do that for 10 times, it tends to get annoying. And in software development, all we do is copy and paste, right? So I can press Command Shift D to give me a duplicate line. If I want to do that 10 times, I can do that. And if I don't want to duplicate an entire line, but rather I just want to duplicate that one word, I can highlight or select that one word and press Command Shift D. Pretty useful, huh? And what about moving things around? I can press Command, Control, up or down keys to move an entire line around in the file. If you're a front-ender, chances are that you're working with JavaScript and you need to use brackets a lot. And sometimes you tend to forget putting things into brackets. Sometimes you forget quotations. Sublime Text really saves your rear end with features where you select a set of words and you put quotations. It doesn't delete the word like other editors do. It puts the quotations and puts the text within those quotes, which is amazing. It's just such a productivity boost. Let's say I forgot to put brackets, I can just select the word and just click on open bracket. This was one of my aha moments where I said, I'm never leaving Sublime Text. And I hope with these set of features, you never leave Sublime Text too. I hope you go and buy yourself a copy of Sublime Text right now. Good luck and happy productive coding.